you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Livin the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here, coming at you from beautiful, sunny San Diego. Get ready to hear some MEGAphone shout-outs from some of the most amazing fitness and wellness experts out there. We're going to shout out the best health, fitness, and wellness information that we find. And in today's MEGAphone episode, we will be shouting out the author of the book, The Comfort Crisis. And I couldn't have enjoyed this book more. It is brutally accurate in its portrayal of what our world is currently going through. And after reading this, it solidifies itself as one of my top 10 favorite books that I've ever read, or at least in this case, listened to. We got a huge shout out to Mr. Michael Easter. And Michael has a great newsletter. He sends out in one of his most recent newsletters, he wrote an article called How to Be a 2%er. How to Be a 2%er. I read it and I definitely think it's worth sharing. So Mr. Michael Easter writes, 2. That's the percent of people who take the stairs when they have also the option of taking an escalator. 2. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. Once you know this, you can't unknow it. We are going to explore 1, the case for being a 2%er. 2, why we have the other 98%. 3, the problems with quote unquote exercise. And 4, ways to become a 2%er. So, why be part of the 2% club? Let's make a case for being a 2%er. Being a 2%er isn't really about just taking the stairs. It's about so much more. It's a metaphor for living. It's about saying yes to the little opportunities we have throughout the day to do the slightly harder thing. Because it turns out that sneaking in more activities into our day, taking the stairs, walking while on a phone call, parking in the furthest spot, and carrying our groceries, all of these can make a larger impact on our health and fitness than our workouts. Let me repeat that. According to research, all of those things, taking the stairs, walking while on a phone call, picking the furthest parking spot, and carrying your groceries, all those can make a larger impact on your health and fitness than your workouts. One study found this type of incidental activity can burn an extra 800 calories across a day. That's roughly the equivalent to an 8-mile run. Even shifting and fidgeting while sitting can burn as many as 400 more calories a day compared to just sitting stationary. And this is according to research at the Mayo Clinic. One thing that we've discussed on many episodes previous to this is that everyday movement is called NEAT, N-E-A-T, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. And this is personally my favorite aspect of energy expenditure because it is the most easily manipulated and it can also have the biggest impact on your health goals. Movement is life. Another way to say this would be a lack of prolonged, consistent sedentary activity is life. There's power in NEAT. A few years ago, a group of scientists analyzed 1,200 studies on everyday activity. Stuff like walking briskly or mowing the lawn with an actual push mower, climbing the stairs, things of that nature. They discovered that racking up at least 150 weekly minutes of this kind of activity can reduce our risk of dying prematurely by more than 30%. Still, less than half of people hit this 150-minute recommendation. Less than half people hit this recommendation. Less than a quarter of people don't do any type of physical activity at all. Less than a quarter don't do any type of physical activity at all. They live their life as a sort of prolonged shuffle from bed to office chair to sofa and back to bed. And this is bad, right? Not a whole lot of things are good and bad. This is bad. Research shows that being sedentary now kills more people than obesity. Inactivity seems to mess up our energy regulating systems, leading to many different chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, you know the drill, etc., etc. Pretty much all of the leading causes of lack of health that we're experiencing today are a result of some sort of sedentary behavior. The more movement that we can sneak into our day, the more death resistant we will be. And it's more important to be a 2%er now than ever before. Activity levels plummeted by about 25% after the pandemic started. 25%. COVID-19 pounds or the quarantine 15, these are all sayings that people had, but those numbers are now even skyrocketing higher, and the names aren't as catchy or as fun as the COVID-19 pounds or the quarantine 15. They're not as fun with the current numbers that we're seeing with weight gain. So why do we have the other 98%? We shouldn't be surprised that only 2% of people take the literal and metaphorical stairs. And we shouldn't feel bad about it when we join the 98% and do the lazier thing. Evolution has wired humans to favor inactivity and feel uncomfortable under physical effort. Being lazy saves precious calories when food was harder to come by. Any person who exercised, burned calories, built muscle, or improved their fitness for the sake of it, they would have just died off if they had exercised like that. They didn't have the calories to spare. The difference is that our ancestors, they were forced to be active. Anthropologists at Harvard said that humans were essentially professional athletes whose livelihood required us to be physically active. They didn't quote unquote work out because they spent most of their waking hours doing necessary not to die things that in today we would classify as quote unquote exercise. They spent their days digging, carrying, walking, and sometimes running, covering anywhere between 5 and 20 miles a day. It was a lot of work, but they did the bare minimum needed to survive. Here's a fun fact. Dancing was the closest thing that our ancestors had to exercise, but they viewed it as more of a social and a spiritual act. Today, our lazy wiring backfires in a world of desk jobs in cars, escalators, delivery food services, appliances, and other things that help make our lives easier. The most successful inventions of the last 200 years are devices that reduce physical effort. Each new invention and new technology chips away at how much we move. For example, thanks to appliances, the average woman today burns roughly 2,500 fewer calories a week than she did in 1964. Just in 1964, a woman now burns 2,500 fewer calories a week just because of these appliances. And this is according to researchers at the University of South Carolina. I imagine men have experienced a similar 40-ish% drop in calorie burn from household tasks, but this study only looked at women. But in all, our early ancestors got about 14 times more physical activity than we do. 14 times. This caused them to burn about 40% more calories a day than us modern Westerners. Now, let's talk about the problems with quote unquote exercise. What are the problems with exercise? Something funny happened once we realized that our new sedentary lifestyles were giving us strange new diseases like heart disease and diabetes that we hadn't seen. We invented exercise, and then we began seeing physical effort as a 30 or 60-minute thing that we do when we go to the gym, separate and distinct from our daily lives. This is just an accessory to what we normally do. And any exercise, of course, is going to be great. And I'm not suggesting anyone stop doing their workout or avoid going to the gym. I would never say that. You know me. I work out very often. The problem comes from being lazy the rest of the day. For example, people who have sedentary jobs, like desk jobs, and then they go and they attack the gym like they used to work out back in the day when they were younger, those type of people have a far higher rate of back pain than the people who just sit all day long. And this is according to researchers that Michael Easter spoke with. So people that go have a sedentary desk job and they go and they work out really hard, those people have more back pain than people who just sit all day long. Our sedentary lifestyles tend to throw off our movement and weaken important stabilizing muscles. And then when we go and we hit the gym, our backs just aren't ready for the spike in hard work. These researchers said that a better approach is to include more movement throughout your entire day. The modern 0 to 60 style of exercise has also created what researchers call aerobic deficit syndrome. Aerobic deficit syndrome. It happens when people who are generally sedentary do only short but high intense workouts. Think of an accountant who sits all day long and then hits the gym for a CrossFit or a Soul Cycle or a high intensity interval class. That's not going to have very good beneficial effects long term. This leads our bodies to adapt to only two speeds, very slow or super fast. When we have to do something that's in the middle, like a long walk or a hike with the family, our hearts tend to get out of whack and we tire very quickly. Aerobic deficiency syndrome isn't as common in places like Europe. This is because people there are more likely to do the 2%er stuff like walk or ride a bike to get different places. For optimal health, your heart needs extended time in the middle ground, not at rest, but also not maxed out. Think a long walk or a relaxed run or even a ruck, which is wearing a heavy backpack and just walking. In exercise geek terms, we call that training the aerobic system. Maxing out trains the anaerobic system, aerobic with oxygen, anaerobic without oxygen. Working each system provides unique benefits to our hearts. We also need to be conscious of how our exercise sessions impact our movement the rest of the day, right? Remember that humans are designed to save energy. Our bodies are really good at figuring out sneaky ways to earn back the calories we burn during exercise. For example, research shows that we are unconsciously ending up moving a little bit less on the days that we exercise. This nearly offsets our workout. Unless we're aware of this phenomenon and we actively try to get more everyday movement on our workout days as well. This is where having a step tracker, like the Oura ring is what I wear, the OURA ring, or the Fitbit or the Garmin or the iWatch, any of those things can really help with awareness. We can track to ensure we get enough everyday movement on our exercise days. Pedometers are also very helpful for weight loss. Our bodies naturally reduce our movement when we begin to lose weight, slowing the loss of weight loss. Remember that the data on any one tracker, it's going to have its inaccuracies. Its usefulness is when you can see a consistent reading of your movement each day and then have the ability to see the changes of your movement from day to day over time. So it's not so much about having a perfectly accurate step number. It's about having a consistent tracker that can tell you when your movement is extremely low or extremely high. And then when you're trying to make any changes, you can change from what your consistent average is as long as you use the same tracker. The hard part is wearing it consistently, of course, and for a long enough time frame that you get some good data. You need to have a good average, but sometimes people don't wear their Fitbits or whatever long enough. There also are super motivating for some people who are numbers driven and have a good goal to shoot for when they look at the number on their watch. And this is me for sure. At least for me, I have a bunch of people that I coach and I have myself, and that's the case. When they have a number to shoot for, they're much more likely to take an extra 10-minute walk here or get out and move during their working breaks when they have the opportunity. So how can we become a 2%er? How to be a 2%er? It would be impossible to mimic the constant effort our ancestors faced. And I don't even think that we would want to. It doesn't even sound that desirable. Having the option of being lazy is really a blessing. Very few people who toil for their food actually want to do that. And I think all those women from 1964, I'm pretty sure that they probably would have preferred to have new appliances that saved them from that housework. Luckily, the more sedentary